Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
and I am Tom.
We are Team Binge, and we are here to talk about Silo. This is Season 3, Episode 2. This one's called It's All Good, and it's tough not to say that in, like, Michael Scott voice, I guess. But we're coming in. I gotta be honest, Tom, I'll jump into it. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit more than I enjoyed the Season 3 opener. So, am I back in the Silo? I don't know. Did I ever leave? I don't know. But, man, I enjoyed this one. We will obviously get to my gripes and complaints. It's impossible not to talk with me without me griping and complaining. But I just wanted to start with some enthusiasm for the storytelling and how this one picked up pace quite a bit from the first one. At least that's how I felt. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that because I feel like my wife was kind of struggling to kind of get into it and had some of that kind of fatigue of bouncing back and forth between, the before times and the Silo, and I could definitely understand that, but I'm just so intrigued about what is happening in the before times, again, especially as a book reader and knowing kind of what they're like setting up and getting into. I find it to be fascinating, and I'm very interested to just kind of hear from your perspective like how that stuff is landing, and if it's not maybe as jarring as others have taken it, because it sounds like you like it, and I'm glad that you love it.
I love that you're referring to me now as your wife. That's fun. And I just want to say, let me clarify, Tom, don't care about the before time stuff. That's not what I find interesting. I find the fact that Juliet, who I have loved as a character, her getting her memory back and a little bit of her personality and being feisty. I don't really like how she gaslit her security guard, who seems, like an all right dude. But that was a choice. But no, I want her back. I appreciate some of the conversations she had, and then we brought Walker back, who was someone that we also enjoyed. So just kind of getting the old gang back together. And this show has a reputation for sometimes dragging. So in an episode like this, where a lot happens and we are told a lot more things, I find that helpful because it is tough to watch your main character stumble around rooms and be sad and say things like, I don't know, I don't remember. Although she did do that several times in this episode. But let's dive into it. I do want to mention, I watched the recap and just some things that I felt were important from those. The mention from Orla Kent, who is now running supply, that they are putting this vitamin D or vitamin D plus, vitamin D plus plus minus plus, which ultimately makes it D plus, if my math is correct. That is being sent to water filtration. And so that is where that is going. There is apparently a wastewater and water treatment plant in the silo somewhere. The Heidi Stinson Clinic is the memory clinic that Charlie is at, which is like an expensive clinic, and she didn't go to a normal military base. She went to that clinic, and then we ended the last episode with the giant pill message that they do a little fake out here. At the end of 1, she was burning it. In the beginning of 2, she was like, oh, fire bad, and she put it out. And I want to open up with the most important question of this whole series, something that when it happened in this episode, it like took me back. I was like, wait, what is going on? Tom, does the silo seem like a place where you have leftover pizza that you reheat? Talk to me about this. Like, this was I don't know why this was so jarring, but leftover pizza and the ability to reheat it, I mean, they don't have microwaves, right? There's no way the Pact allows microwaves. But her being like, oh, I was just reheating some za? What's going on here, my guy?
That was a very lame excuse, and I had the same exact thought. I'm like, if you're going to say something is burning, yeah, maybe she left it in the oven too long, but I feel like there are better excuses you can come up with, because I immediately thought of you just had some leftover Dominoes that you tossed into the microwave for 30 seconds.
They're like, we've been delivering you soup. Where did you get pizza? She's like, oh, I ordered some up from the Down Deep. They make the best Chicago style. They're like, what's Chicago? And she's like, oh no, I've said too much. It's Georgia style. Is Georgia style a type of pizza? Like,
it is now.
It is now. Oh man, everyone knows Atlanta makes the best pies, the best za. That was such a moment where I was like, wait, what? That seems really weird that you'd be like, oh, I have some leftover pizza. Anyways, she doesn't burn the message. Camille checks in. It feels like she's leaving as Camille checks in on her. So she's like, "Oh, I thought you were DoorDash or Uber Eats, or rest in peace, Drizzle. Do you remember Drizzle, Tom? They used to deliver alcohol to your door. They were the best. Someone
They're
bought
nothing
them.
anymore?
No, they don't exist. Believe me, I've been writing emails to my senator. I've been writing emails to the junior senator from Georgia to try and get Drizzle reinstated, and they said no. All right. We have this. So Juliet lies to Camille, and how do you feel about all the algorithm we're getting in the show? Before, the algorithm was used like the shark in Jaws. We barely saw it. It was just something looming. We didn't even know it existed for a while. No one was more surprised when a shark showed up in Jaws than me. But the algorithm, we are getting quite a bit, and it's kind of filling in a lot of gaps, which I don't mind. But I do find the weird, audio graphic that they do for this. It's very different than the rest of the silo, and I understand it's very different. But how do you feel about the algorithm coming into our lives so much in this episode?
This kind of concept of the algorithm and having communication essentially outside of the silo is definitely pretty prominent in the books. So I think there's some very interesting stuff that is going to come with it. But I agree it's a bit jarring from a show standpoint because everything in the silo is all kind of analogish, right? And then you go to this polar opposite thing, which is, algorithms that showing graphs and charts and, speaking in this kind of weird tone. It is kind of take you out a little bit, but it just kind of, again, reminds you that these silos are being potentially manipulated by some much more advanced technological force here.
All right, so two things. One's important and is plot-based. Two is a joke that I have to make. Doesn't it just remind you of the Windows Media Player when you could turn on that graphic that moved around in waves with whatever, for you, Limp Bizkit song you were listening to?
Correct.
For me, I don't know, Newsboys song or whatever
Creed.
My parents would let me. Creed was too much, Tom. Too much for the old Julian household. The other thing is, you could take the algorithm as two things. You could take it as outside help, or you could take it as AI that was loaded into the silo at some point previous and continues to live on. You as a book reader probably know the answer to that, but me as a dumb TV watcher is either okay, the algorithm was just part of the silo when they rolled it over and dumped it into the ground, or there is someone on the other end of that voice that is watching and communicating, right? Those are kind of our two paths.
Yeah, I think so. And I believe, well, I'm going to be cautious with my words because I don't know, but I feel like I've watched recap videos from other people that we've watched, like the Think Story guy on YouTube who does great little recaps of these episodes. We found out that there's 50 silos in the last season, and the understanding is the 50 silos kind of represent the 50 states. But what the extent of all these silos are, and it's kind of mentioned here, right? Because we get some almost backstory from the algorithm talking about there's 352 years of data and protocols. We've had to do full memory wipes. It's happened 6 times. It happened to your silo 140 years ago. So we're definitely filling in a lot more of, I guess, the round of all of these silos in this area.
Yeah, you just rolled through those numbers so quickly that I got to be honest, I didn't catch them, and you're the only person I'm talking to right now because I've just been blown away by your 50-state, 50 silo that I did not know or had not conjectured before. So
yeah, I think we talked about that in season 2. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we've had those discussions.
Okay, well, if you did, I was not listening, and I try to listen to you as much as possible. That's part of this endeavor. So this is the Georgia silo, apparently. Okay, that's fair, and that would explain it because Georgia is the apple state, so that's why they have all these apple trees that they throw at the dead bodies. Let's go back. Are those peach trees? Have I been thinking apples and they're peach trees, or are they apple trees?
No, I'm pretty sure they're apples. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to necessarily, if every silo is a state, I don't think you have to only grow what grew in your state, but I don't know.
I guarantee the Arizona silo was the first one where they tried to get outside because everyone's like, these are all cactus. They don't bear fruit. Why are we I'm sorry. And it takes 70 years for them to grow a saguaro arm. What are we doing here, people? You know, someone's trying to eat prickly pear, and they're like, this is the worst silo. Get me out of here. Also, there's no water in the Arizona silo. That's the other thing that happens. And they crank the thermostat up to 110 degrees. Oh, man, that would be so great. Okay.
We were definitely one of our first silos to go.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. They were like, why bother? Just like do the protocol right now. Murder them all. So you touched on this, I think, while you were rattling off those numbers, and this is something important. The head of the mining guy, who seems to be rather unpleasant from episode 1, talked about, hey, the silo's been around for 300 years. In this one, the algorithm mentions we have 352 years of data on like this memory program that we're doing. And so we now have a kind of history, or at least how old these silos possibly are, correct? Mm-hmm. And the algorithm, I hate to ask you these questions because you can only reveal so much, but I'm just trying to pick it up as I watch. It has all this data on how these like memory loss and like keeping the piece in the silo regarding people's memory works, and so that's what it's tracking, and that's the data point. So like later on in the episode where it's like Juliet is a calming factor, but she might not be at a certain point, it's going off of all of these years and all these years of people being pumped full of vitamin D plus the memory drug in the water, or via a pill like Juliet is having happen to her, correct? Am I touching something, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. And again, like not to be, I mean, I think as myself, even as a casual watcher, I mean, what I'm kind of taking from this is the algorithm is doing essentially everything it can to try to keep the silo, in some sort of form of equilibrium, right? So they don't have to initiate it's not the protocol, right? What do they call it? The fail-safe or whatever.
Yeah, the fail-safe is where they kill everyone. The memory is the protocol that they're trying to live by. Tom, we're not casual watchers of this show. We are formal watchers. We do this for a living. So please don't downgrade your interest in the show. I do want to point out the algorithm is like talking to Camille and being like, listen, you're the one that's helping her remember the right stuff, which there's some parallels with this and Charlie. And then essentially, like, Camille, you're her most trusted ally at this point. And I do think it's interesting that the algorithm, Camille cannot really win. Every time she goes to the algorithm and she's like, hey, everything's cool with Juliet. Algorithm's like, listen, no, it's not. I was watching and
look at my
you
chart.
were wrong. Yes, like, shame on you, Camille. So we figure out what's going on there. And then we cut over to Billings, who I think you and I complained in episode 1 that Billings just did not seem to be all that involved. And we get a little bit more of him in this episode. And I guess you could maybe say an explanation as to why he's not real engaged with what's going on. We'll just say he's got a lot on his plate, Liz Lemon,
Yeah.
But in this scene, I loved that he has the pact. And he has all these pages out of the pact, and he's got a bunch of handwritten notes. And it's like, if you had to rewrite the Bible by hand, it'd be pretty tough. And that's what's on Billings' plate in this section. But we find out in this moment that Orla Kent, who is the new head of supply, has gone missing, and her sister has shown up to report it. And the sister's got a real, like, bulletproof, hey, I don't want to wait 24 hours for a missing person report. My sister and I have a really like dedicated. Tom, could you go missing for 24 hours without being noticed? Would someone in your life realize you were gone?
I'd hope so, but let's be honest, no, probably not.
Your wife would just be like, oh, he's probably podcasting again. It's 3 a.m. The bed is empty and cold. He's podcasting again. And your son's singing,
right.
your son's singing that like "Cat in the Cradle with a Silver Spoon," "Where's Daddy Gone" song. But he's just like doing Legos, so he doesn't care that you're really gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, I just want to say samesies, my man, samesies. All right. So Orla Kent's missing.
I don't have anything. Yeah, I don't have anything that I'm doing with somebody every 24 hours, like these little meet and greets. But again, I don't live in a silo. I feel like if I lived in a silo, then yes, maybe I would visit my sister, my brother, my parents on a daily cadence.
Listen, Tom, every night from now on, I'm going to call you and wish you good night. And so you'll know I'm going to call you at 12:15 a.m. and wish you good night. And you have to answer.
I go to bed at 10.
You have to answer. All right? That's how close we are.
I'll have the AI answer for me.
So, yeah, thank you. Great. I'll be talking to the algorithm. The algorithm's like, you are Tom's most trusted ally, but he could not be awake for this. Thank you for being present.
I have drugged him.
All right. Let's pull back. All right. Pull up, much like an F-35 pilot. We get a quick flash where I like how Juliet's memory is coming in and out, and the algorithm does explain, like, hey, there are some outliers that some people like are immune to this medicine or they push through it, whatever. Juliet's a fighter, and I guess she recognizes the handwriting, or she thinks she recognizes the handwriting and thinks it's Walker because the handwriting, which is cursive, which is the future, according to Nate Bargatze, is the same as when she got the message about the heat tape in her suit, like Supply will take care of her. Which kind of let us know, hey, Walker's going to show up in this episode, which I was excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also, I was kind of glad that we got that bit of like Shirley actually handing these like notes and stuff, or that final notes to Juliet before she went out to clean. Because again, it just kind of re-cements their relationship and how they were close. And we get it here in a little bit when like Knox starts talking to her and kind of confronts about the whole Shirley of it all. And I guess it's just too painful for Shirley. I don't know. I didn't.
This was a big question between my spouse and I after episode 1. It was, why did Shirley react so poorly? And the show dances around it a little bit, but ultimately Knox explains it as like, hey, you were essentially Shirley's like best friend and hero. She was torn up like when you were gone. She was so happy when you got back. And then for you, like, not to recognize her, not to remember her, it was just too much and too painful, which I understand. Like, I understand that hurt every time I call you at 12:15 and you send me to voicemail. Like, it hurts a little bit. You know what I mean? When you're like, you answer the phone, you're like, I don't know you. Stop calling me. It hurts. But, it felt a little clumsy in episode 1, but I like that they covered it in episode 2 rather than it just being like a showism for conflict's sake. And I really like... I loved the conversation with Knox. I loved the conversation with Walker. And this is, Juliet has gone down to find Walker. She ends up talking with Knox. And the other thing that's explained in this conversation is Camille, Sims have told all these mechanical people, like, hey, with Juliet's recovery and memory, you got to be super careful about what you say. And so that's why they're all handling her with kid gloves, which is not their typical way. So I like that explanation, as well as how it is mirrored in the Charlie storyline, which I think was just a smart way to explain this.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I like it. I mean, I guess Knox eventually tells her more about like Lucas Kyle, Bernard's previous shadow. And he kind of talks about him heading down to like that Digger Void area. So is that your assumption that he might actually be hiding in that, George's old area?
Yeah, my assumption is that all of the stuff we want hidden is just in this Digger Void, which is pretty convenient. And it is also convenient that we have this big hole in the stairs, so like people are limited to go into the down deep, which we do find in this, because Juliet's like, hey, I would love to go on the rope swing, and Knox is like, I don't think you're ready for the rope swing.
You're not tall enough.
You're not tall enough. Come back with a parent or guardian. Did you feel in the previous seasons that Lucas Kyle was like as important as... it almost feels like the name and the character, like even how we end this episode, I don't feel like the connection between Lucas, Kyle, and Juliet was so strong that he was so important, but I understand he was like formerly Bernard's shadow. It feels like they're filling this in. I'm okay with it, but does this make sense? Like, I don't need a romantic story between Juliet and Lucas Kyle, if that makes sense, because I think that's what they tried to build in like season 1, right?
Yeah, they were kind of starting to build it, but it ultimately didn't get too far off the ground because of everything that was kind of going on.
Because they're in a silo, Tom, which is below ground. So yeah, that makes sense. You don't have to explain that to me. I'm not dumb. Come on, man.
Poor word choice. But obviously, I think getting... They had a previous relationship, whatever it was, but now getting Lucas, Kyle, and Juliet together will be fascinating. Just now knowing what Lucas, Kyle knows.
Right.
And as the shadow and gotten that dope little iPad, got to see and talk to the algorithm. Like, there's a lot that could potentially explode in their conversations.
Don't forget when he Legoed together that broken hard drive, Tom, like you can with hard drives. I guess incredible. I'm okay with it being like a name that is told to Juliet. It jogs a little bit of memory, and then it's brought up again later in the episode. And also, we're jumping ahead, but we find out that Lucas Kyle has been gone for over 3 months because Kennedy makes a point of saying 90-something days. So I think it's interesting. This guy's just down in that Digger Void, just hanging out, eating Pez, I guess, maybe?
Well, we know he went back up and had that confrontation with Bernard and essentially told Bernard something, probably what the algorithm told him, that caused Bernard to essentially want to go out and clean or do whatever on his own terms. So, yeah, maybe he'd been a bit of a recluse since then, but remember, he was also the shadow, and Bernard essentially locked him up in the kind of vault area. So that's why I think people haven't seen him prior to that.
Tom, you're wrong. The shadow is Alec Baldwin. He's the only shadow for me. The Shadow so knows, good. Tom. That's a movie I've never seen. I don't know anything about it, but I know that much. I've just explained, and it was totally worth to make the joke.
Of all the bad movies that you and your wife watch, like on Wednesdays, don't you have like a bad movie night? Like that should be on your thing. And I think it might actually be a fun movie to watch.
Sure. Listen, I love Alec Baldwin. I think some of his choices may have been questionable, but let's move on. I do think we're going to get a scene where Lucas Kyle is in a cave and all of the cave is covered in chalk, like drawings and math, and his hair's really long, and he's just like, I'm trying to figure it out. I think that's where we're eventually going to find Lucas Kyle.
Yeah, he's like Jade from if anybody watches that show.
Yeah, sure. I don't, but you can make your From references, and I'll make the Shadow references, and together, that's a podcast, my friend. All right, so this all ends with Knox explaining kind of why Shirley is the way that she is, and then enter Walker, which convenient timing, but it was great to have Walker back. I loved this scene with Walker. I loved that it was like everyone else is treating Juliet delicately, and part of that is because of the way Camille has shaped the story, the way Sims has been involved, but Walker, knowing Juliet since a child, like knows her strength and is just not treating her with kid gloves. I love like even the small thing where they're going into that cafeteria line and the people are like, oh, Mayor, go ahead, and she's like, Walker's like, she can wait with the rest of us, and tells the cook, like, hey, don't fawn over her. I really liked all of that, and like Juliet could clock it as well. It's like, hey, this is someone that knows me and is, I don't know, not going to treat me like a delicate flower. I really appreciated how well this was done.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's what a true Texas Ranger does as Walker. Yeah.
Brilliant. This is how if you had memory loss, I would treat you. I would be like, actually, no.
Thanks, bud.
If you had memory loss, I would definitely use you to get to the front of the line of the
cafeteria.
Cut the line.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I would take you to Disneyland so fast. I'd be like, listen, he doesn't remember everything. He'd love to go on the Matterhorn. This may be the third time we've done this, but he'd love to go on a fourth time. Maybe he'll remember something. I don't know.
Will the Yeti strike his memories? Yeah, is that his touchstone? Yeah,
the Matterhorn's still a ride in Disneyland, right? It's been a long time.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
I think it's pretty miserable. Last time we went, it's like super old and never been updated. And I think they did update the Yeti, so now it's more terrifying than when it was when I was a child.
Listen, the best type of roller coaster is one where you don't know if you're going to make it. You know, that's the best. The old ones where you're like, this might be it. You know, I may meet God today. You know, who knows? All right. So this conversation with Walker, she's like bringing up the past, and Juliet very forthrightly is like, hey, I am wanting to talk to you because I received a note and it reminded me of the note that you sent me before I walked. And so she remembers the heat tape. She's remembering what Walker did for her. And Walker ultimately coming back with like, hey, are you even trying? Like, if you are, try harder, because like the Juliet I remember like had a lot of strength.
Which I love that. Yes, like always trust your gut. Like Juliet essentially is like leaning to her for advice because she has nobody that she feels like she can confide in. So I'd love that back and forth. The try harder at the end is fantastic. But I also feel like it's a little bit of a jerk move to tell somebody that's on drugs to try harder to remember. Like she can't really control it, but I don't know.
Oh, come on, Tom. You don't get to the Matterhorn for a fourth time with that type of attitude, my friend. I do like that you were like, she tells her to trust her gut and that she's a fighter, and then you accidentally said Julian instead of Juliet. And I was like, yeah, I am also a guy with a gut. You know, that makes sense. No, I agree. It was a little bit harsh, but also I think Juliet thrives in harsh, man. She was in that generator fixing it. She's got all these tattoos she doesn't remember. I don't know. I appreciated all of this. What I didn't appreciate is after she leaves Walker, and the conversation here is like, hey, I got the note to go to the market at 2. Should I go? And Walker's like, what does your gut say? And this leads her to trust her gut. She wants to go to the market. She's there with her bodyguard, who I think is named Donald, maybe. I don't know if I got his name, but she really puts him on blast in front of a bunch of her fan club and is like, I don't know. This guy definitely got beaten up by a mob. Also, Juliet could go have a meeting. And I like that it was all solved with a tepid apology at the end of the episode by her.
Yes.
She's like, sorry, my bad. Like, I won't do it again. I don't know.
It was a very interesting turn for that guy to kind of come back and say essentially like, I'm on your side. You're being treated like a prisoner after her gaslighting him in this moment. It was also very interesting to see that essentially Juliet has groupies,
yes.
I guess.
Well, this is the same group that were looking for her relics, right? In the meet and greet in episode 1. We'll talk about this guard, but I don't know that him being like, hey, wink, wink, we can lie to Camille. I don't know if that's not a double cross, or Camille telling him like, hey, get close to Juliet. I don't know how deep that sedition goes, but I'm suspect of this guy because he touches her inappropriately, and this mob rightly beats him. I did like we're jumping so far ahead, but when he's like, listen, I respect the badge, and then he like looks away like he can't look, he's like, am I wife? Like the conviction of it, my wife was not really there. Like I feel like this guy's marriage may be on the rocks just a little bit, but he respects the badge. So Juliet gets away. A raider finds her, and we find out this raider is Sandy, who worked for her when she took off over the sheriff's office, right? So this is a familiar face.
Yeah, I loved this because I think I remember her all the way back in like season 1 and some of the conversations she had with Rashida Jones's character. I can't remember her name now. But yeah, like definitely seemed to have a little bit more kind of heart and sentiment for all the shenanigans that were kind of going on, and now kind of seeing her back. So I think she was also one of the ones that like clocked the screen when it like briefly changed to like the pretty outdoors or whatever, and made it look like everything was fine.
Right.
So again, seeing her kind of come back. And then as we get into this storyline of them, her ultimately meeting Patrick Kennedy and Danny, some of the other guys that ultimately kind of cracked the code for her in the video that she could see it. It's very interesting to see them because they're still believing in essentially the original lie that we as an audience have already kind of moved on from like the first season or like the pilot episode. and these characters are still stuck in believing the screen thing is cool.
Right. So she is dealing with the mechanical people and her friends trying to get her to remember, and now she's got the like deep down conspiracy people being like, hey, why did you say it was unsafe out there? It's clearly safe. We've seen the video. We watched it with you on the hard drive. And I thought this was interesting, and I can get their perspective as to why they still feel that, because this silo has done certainly Patrick Kennedy harm. You know, they killed his wife. And so I appreciated this. And I don't mind them getting to Kennedy being like, hey, are they medicating you? Because at some point Sims was going to give me forget-me-nots, and I bet they're real. And so it felt rushed, but I was okay with it. I don't need us to spend a bunch of time with Juliet trying to figure out these pills are more detrimental than advantageous. Although that leads us to our ad break, Tom. Team Binge is brought to you by Pfizer. Take your pills. All of them. Don't ask, just take them. All right. That was, hopefully we get paid for that one, Tom.
We're not doctors.
We're not doctors, but Pfizer.
We'll shell pills.
Pfizer, you don't need doctors. Just take your pills. I believe is their slogan now, maybe. We're going to get sued. All right. So... and this is where finally Juliet has introduced the fact that, hey, maybe the pills that I'm taking are not, beneficial, which I appreciated. And I love the actor that plays Patrick Kennedy. He's in Band of Brothers. Graham Yost brought him back for this. I couldn't rattle his name off, but I really enjoy him. And he's great as the bearded conspiracy guy. He's just wonderful.
I was gonna say he looks like an extra level of disheveled. He looks great. I love him. But I'm with you. I like the idea of just doing everything we can, even though maybe this was like a little heavy-handed about you taking pills. But like get Juliet her memory back. The quicker the better.
Tom, extra level of disheveled is definitely our next podcast. I love that phrase. I wrote it down. Something's gonna come of that when our band really kicks off. Our Goo Goo Dolls cover band will be called the Extra Level Disheveled. So good. This is the one time in this episode where Juliet reverts back to, I don't remember anything. And ultimately, it's because of the pills. I loved, hey, the Raiders are coming. We've got a little network of whistleblowers that let these guys know they're coming. They shove her out the door as if she's just delivered a pizza, which is something that happens in this silo. And they're like, you've delivered it, go outside. And Billings and Camille show up with the Raiders. They're looking for Juliet. I appreciate Billings in this moment. He's like, let's get the mayor clear before we start breaking some skulls. And
smart.
All of this leads to, they find that like tunnel out of this room, and Juliet is covering for them. But Tom, before we go that route, I want to talk about, they have the conversation about the helmets, right? Before the Raiders show up?
Yeah, because we thought they might be like trying to essentially maybe piecemeal the suits together, and they're trying to get out. But yeah, I don't know why they did this, because again, like it doesn't necessarily make sense, but it does give us the idea of, yes, this said 18, this is the one from ours, this other one said 17. So again, it's just starting to kind of drill these memories back into Juliet. And then they also call out like the whole sign that she wrote about not safe to come out, that it wasn't written by her. So the assumption is it's one of the kids, or maybe it was Solo that gave her that kind of cloth to take with her. Right.
And this is again pointed out that things like the hard drive, things like the helmet have a different number than the helmet that she returned with that had 17 on it as opposed to 18. And I wonder now if these numbers correspond with the states joining the Union. I have not looked that up, but is Georgia the 18th state to join the Union? There's no way for us to know.
I'll look it up.
For those of you that know, you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. If you add a little bit of snark onto your email, I'm sure we'll accept it. with more grace than, if we just looked it up ourselves. But there was also a conversation while these guys are talking.
Do you want me to tell you? I know the answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Georgia is the 4th state to join the union.
I was so close.
Goodness,
so close.
I didn't realize. Man, top 10. Good for you, Georgia.
Good job, Georgia. Arizona is like 75th, I think, in joining the union. Anyways, there's a conversation in here where they are also interested in Lucas Kyle, which, having this name just dropped on Juliet not that long ago, she's latched onto it. And these guys bring up that he is, he went to the mine, but he was brought back as Bernard's shadow, and also he saw the hard drive. So what does he know? And I believe this is where they let Juliet know that he had disappeared and he may be in the down, down deep. So this is broken up when the raiders show up. And as I mentioned, Juliet is sent outside, and Camille talks to Juliet. And I find it interesting that Juliet, once again, defaults to lying to Camille. So there is something about Camille that Juliet just doesn't trust. And maybe it's the pills. I don't know.
I think it's just, embedded in her DNA, right? It's just like she knows that she needs to placate to this person, but, and she does a well enough job, right? Because it does seem like Camille is content with her answers and is still feels they're on the same page.
But we don't feel like, you could argue that Bernard was a little bit evil and a little bit power happy and a little bit maniacal. You could argue those things, right? I don't feel the same way about Camille. I feel like the algorithm is revealed to Camille, like, hey, this could all go really bad unless you get things in line. And so from her perspective, she's just trying to keep the peace. And if keeping the peace is drug Juliet a little bit, like, that's what I have to do, right? Like, Camille...
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I like her.
If
I like
we
her
looked
as a
into Camille's soul, it would not be evil. It would be just trying to keep the peace, right?
Yeah, and I guess is it this position, like, will ultimately corrupt? Like, Camille is still very new to this, and, like, Bernard being in IT for so long, like, maybe at a certain point, you kind of become corrupted by the power or knowledge, whatever, that he knows. But yeah, very much it seems like Camille is, like, there's like layers of puppet masters. Like, one of our good friends called this out, where it's like the algorithm is essentially the puppet master of Camille, who's the puppet master of Juliet. Like, there's just like levels, like Inception style.
Yep, everyone's hand is inside someone else, just like a puppet master. That's right, Tom. Something you don't think about often, and if you think about too much, it gets pretty weird. So, all right. We get this weird moment where, in order to find Juliet, they had to talk to this Evelyn. And Evelyn's price to reveal where Juliet was hidden is to talk to her hero, Juliet. And I love mean Rebecca Ferguson. I love it so much. Rebecca Ferguson looking into someone's eyes and being like, listen, kid, life's meaningless. Those tattoos are meaningless. We're all going to die is probably the best Rebecca Ferguson I've ever experienced. I don't know. I love that she was so mean to this kid that just wanted her to be a hero. And in response, I love that this kid came back at her and was like, hey, it might mean nothing to you, but you coming back, like, saved us all from this rebellion that was going to end up killing us all. I enjoyed this. I enjoy mean Juliet. I'm not going to lie.
Well, but that was everything to Juliet, too. I mean, that was her main reason for coming back, because she didn't want to happen to her silo what happened to Solo's silo in 17. So... and I do find it interesting that they mentioned the tattoos, because the tattoos are like super cool looking, and they didn't really kind of mention them in previous seasons, but we saw it when she was like working down in mechanical. And it makes me seem, because I feel like they clocked it multiple times in this episode, that maybe we will get some meaning behind these. Because I thought Juliet was that was gonna be a core memory, and she was gonna like spout something out, but nope, she still doesn't remember.
She's like, nope, I have no idea. Tom, let's go into Tattoo Corner. Now, you famously have the Muppet Babies tattooed on your body, and much like the puppeteer with his hand inside of the puppeteer, inside of the hand of the puppeteer, that's kind of what your tattoo looks like with the Muppet Babies. Do you care to explain that tattoo at all?
I was just a really big fan. Fozzie Bear on that little keyboard. It was adorable. I have no regrets.
Okay, good.
Now you have Tweety Bird on your rear end, from what I remember, right?
Yep.
Or was it Big Bird? I don't know. It is a big bird, but
yes, that's correct, and it's colored, which the doctor's office often is like, "Are you jaundiced?" And I'm like, "Nope, just my Big Bird tattoo. That's all. Liver's doing fine." And he's like, "Is it?" And I'm like, "No, I drink a lot." And then we move on, and then I get a new doctor, and everything's fine.
Did you ask your doctor to bring back Drizzle?
Yes, I was like, "Sir,
does he have any?
Doctor." Sir, do you have the ability to bring back Drizzle? And he says, no, that's not within my Hippocratic oath. And I was like, okay. And then I got a new doctor. Okay, let's move on. So this all leads to the end of the episode where, not really the end of the episode because we have to still go to the before times, but Juliet talking to her guard and her guard being like, listen, we're cool. I got beaten up by that mob because you claimed I touched you inappropriately. All good here. That's not going to, give me a reputation. And she's like, okay, I'm sorry. And he's like, listen, if you want some freedom, we can work it out. Forget about Camille. We'll help you out. And I don't know if this is him working for Camille being like, hey, let Juliet into your confidence or, let her think you're working with her. I don't know. But the real big, interesting surprise for me, because it involves Billings, was at the end here where we find out that it's his wife who had the arm injury that helped the outsiders get into IT to steal the helmet. And so we have, it's so funny to have the straight-laced go by the pact guy, although his faith in the pact seems to have been shattered, dealing with his wife, Kat, who has now essentially joined the new rebellion. And I thought this was very interesting in terms of, and this kind of explains how uninvolved Billings is with the council and those other things, right?
Yeah, and then him talking specifically about being tasked to rewrite the pact and the irony of him being able living his entire life to that pact, and then now his wife essentially becoming a rebel in and of itself. And telling her, listen, just don't break into IT or grab the mayor. That looks really bad on me. And if this would happen, what would become of both of us, kind of a thing.
Right. And they also have a kid, which, if one of us has to go clean and the other one, I don't know, goes to the mines, what happens to our kid? So I thought this was interesting, but, Kat is over it. She's like, listen, I'm not following orders anymore. And I appreciate the bar he sets where it's don't break into IT, don't grab the mayor. And he's like, what else are you thinking about breaking into? And she's like, you only had 2 rules, and so I won't do those 2 things. This marital conversation is broken up with him getting a AOL messenger that says Orla Kent is still missing. So I would argue he's not doing a great job looking for Orla Kent. What's your thoughts on this? And I don't know how much you can reveal, but are we going to have a murder mystery with Orla Kent? We have the vitamin D being walked up in barrels later on, and she seems to be the person supplying that. I didn't get the sense from episode 1 that Orla Kent was delving too deep or was in putting herself in a situation where she was going to get reported or murdered. What do you think is happening with Orla Kent?
Yeah, when she was talking to, I think, one of her coworkers in supply, she seemed to be one that was, much more straight-laced and, trying to do the right thing. And we saw as much, I think, in the council meeting, too. And, for her to go missing and then obviously having that argument back and forth with the kind of head of the mines, I guess the arrow was pointing towards that guy of doing something nefarious, but we still don't really understand, what his motivation would be and why they really were angry at each other in the first place. But yeah, maybe she is sniffing around too close to the vitamin D stuff, and maybe that's why Camille, the algorithm, somebody else might have snatched her. I'm interested to see where we go with that storyline. Gives Billings something to do, and I want more Billings.
Yeah, that's fair. Orla Kent maybe moonlighting as a pizza delivery person. Who knows? That's
exactly.
She might be making a little dough on the side. If you get my meaning.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Speaking of dough, this evil nurse who is becoming eviler by the word or eviler by the moment, more evil. delivers Juliet her drugs, which Juliet does not take. Tom, have you ever thought about if someone forced you to take a pill, how you would not take it? Like the dexterity it would take. Well, you seem like a guy that can tie a cherry stem into a knot, so maybe it wouldn't be an issue for you. But I'm always fascinated by these storylines where someone is given a drug and doesn't take it, like how they pocket it, where they put it. I don't know. Juliet did a fabulous job.
I was going to say, she did a great job of, putting it behind her tongue or something, then spitting it out. But, I mean, unbeknownst to her, they've got cameras everywhere in here. It's not just in her mirror. We know there's a camera over, her sink. So I was kind of taken aback by when the nurse goes in there and picks up the drain and finds it. I'm like, man, this nurse is like Sherlock Holmes. But no, they probably had the tape. They saw Juliet literally spit them out, and she's just trying to, I guess, recover the evidence.
They've got the tape and video, but they don't have flashlights. This lady, they're like, what's the most nefarious lighting source that she can use over the sink? And they're like, a match is pretty bad. And they're like, perfect. She can light a match. I would think matches would be the worst thing in the silo because they are a one-time use. What do you do with that match when it's done? You throw it away. So
fair point.
I don't know. I thought this was all interesting, but Juliet has decided not to take her forget-me-not drugs, and the nurse knows, as does the algorithm. We end it with Juliet where she goes to the cafeteria and she's doing the constellation thing that Lucas showed her. And once again, this was just I don't know that the Lucas relationship with Juliet was so impactful that this was something of all the things she remembered. Why this, Well,
it's because you're not a hopeless romantic, Julian, like Lucas and Juliet here. Now, do you remember?
That's probably the meanest thing anyone's ever said to me in my life. Truly, I wrote it down next to.
You're a hopeful romantic, not hopeless.
Extra level. The level? What did you? I can't read
extra
my
level of disheveled.
There it is. Disheveled is a scribble, so that'll tell you where I'm at right now.
No, but what is this constellation, Julian? Do you remember the W or M in the sky? What is it?
Oh man,
we see it every time we go camping, buddy. Sure.
It is.
It's not really meaningful to the show. I just want to know if you remember it.
Oh, is it one of the dippers?
It's not a dipper. It's Cassiopeia.
Oh, sure. That's something I've heard of before. Why? What? We've talked about this previously? What does this matter?
It's a famous constellation, man. Get yourself together.
All right. Well, let's move on. We talked about this a bit, but we cut to the algorithm explaining to Camille, hey, Juliet is the mayor, calming. Juliet remembering what's going on, bad. These lines cross, we kill everyone, and she's outlived her usefulness. And it's funny from the show's perspective where they're like, unless we can dump a bunch of vitamin D in the water supply. So they've kind of given us a ticking time bomb of, hey, can we dump enough forget-me-not in the water before Juliet remembers enough to destabilize this whole silo?
Well, do you think this is what the algorithm brought up in the beginning, saying 140 years ago, or we've done 6 different resets on the silo? And I think he said, 140 years ago, they did it specifically to Silo 18. So is this what they could do? If they pour enough of this in their water supply, everybody will forget, and they can, we kind of see in the before times, essentially train these people and give them the memories they want, and then have them all think that Juliet never went outside. Everything is great. It's all back to how the original pack was. Is that kind of your thought?
Yeah, that would make sense. It sounds exhausting, if I'm being honest, too. Based on how much work they're doing with Charlie, I don't know. But yeah, I would assume they've dumped vitamin D plus in the water supply a couple of times to reset all of this. And the rebellion that everyone talked about in those first seasons was probably one of the times that they had to dump all this in the water supply. So
yeah.
I find all the stuff that happened in the silo in this episode very compelling. I liked that we didn't drag. I think we got a lot of information, and we're moving at a pretty good clip now. I felt much more comfortable with this episode's silo than last episode's. But that all leads us to the before time, Tom, which, listen, you and I loved House of Cards. We love Washington, D.C. and all that goes on there. So I'm excited to dig into this a little bit. So let's go into the before times where Daniel, who is talking with his sister Charlie, and I believe she calls him Donald, which threw me off. I was like, wait, is it Daniel Keene or is it Donald Keene? I don't know.
I feel like that's a little Easter egg for the book readers, because in the book the character's name is Donald Keene, I believe. Well, I don't know. I feel like there's a Donald character in the book, and they might have just been calling reference to it, but I think they changed it.
Sure.
So as I'm saying this all out loud, I've realized the book readers are probably yelling at me right now because I'm getting this wrong. So I will look it up for next pod. But
book readers, if you'd like to yell at us, you can yell at us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Just put your email in all caps and put in the subject line, Tom was wrong about the name or the books or something. Those exact words, and then we will read it. But ultimately, the brother is...
Okay, I did look it up. It is confirmed. Donald Keene was the name of the character in the books.
And in the TV show, he's Daniel? Classic.
Correct, yeah.
Classic Graham Yost, making those subtle changes to make it all make sense. He is going through childhood memories with his sister. She doesn't remember anything. She doesn't remember his name. This all leads to Keene going to the coffee maker, which I was like, bro, your cup is not lined up with that nozzle.
No,
You got to
so
move
agreed.
that around.
Yep.
Drove me crazy. Also, it was shooting out like 2 different type of liquid. What kind of fancy coffee maker is this? Mine, you just throw the beans in the hot water cup and let it sit for 20 minutes and coffee appears. I don't know what's
steep,
going on.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But we find Dr. Victor, and I'm going to call him Dr. Victor because his last name, pretty tough, not only to write in an outline, but also pronounce. So we're just going to call him Dr. Victor, okay?
This isn't the new Doc Daddy?
No. This is Dr. Victor. Doc
Okay.
Daddy, may you rest in peace. We still think about you, Doc Daddy. He's in 1,000 pieces and definitely dead. He's
rest in
riding around
pieces,
with
Too
Khaleesi
soon.
right now in the big fields of heaven, probably. I don't know. Anyways, Dr. Victor, Tom, I had so many questions. This guy's like, listen, I'm your sister's doctor, and the reason she doesn't remember you, my fault, my bad, bro. I gave her some medicine that makes her forget. And at no point is I want to call him Dean, but his name is Keene.
Keene, yeah, just call him Keene.
Daniel Keene. Or Donald King, we don't know. At no point is this guy like, why? Why are you giving her the forget-me-not medication? Why? And
Well, they do like all this, like, I feel like it's kind of heavy exposition dumps, right? Because they do this line, I think, right before the credits, sequentially in the show of like, oh, I'm the reason she doesn't remember. And you're like, oh. But then he immediately like explains about this like drawbridge and how they can kind of choose memories and we're storytellers. Like, as he's saying all of this, I'm like, oh yeah, this is not nefarious at all.
yeah, no, this guy seems like he just wants to help, people forget their past and remember only the cool stuff. And we get all this like memory jargon where he's like, listen, what separates us from the apes? We're storytellers. I gave him some sort of weird accent when I said storytellers.
We're storytellers, see?
Yeah, he's like an Italian mobster, I guess. But it's like we're all just data points, and we share those data points through stories. And, essentially she went on a mission, and we can eventually talk to her about that mission or re-give her those memories, but we're going to take the trauma out of it. And it's kind of like, well, you guys weren't on the mission, and everyone else is dead. So how are you going to replace that memory? I did not understand, and I felt from a brother's perspective, his first question should have been like, why did you remove her memory? And you could argue it's like, oh, like combat vets and that sort of thing, if you can remove the trauma, they recover better. But pretty quickly, Keene gets to it where he's like, hey, like instead of implanting happy memories and memories of her childhood, could we implant a lie? And the doctor's like, well, listen, my coffee's ready. I got to go. Time's up, my guy. I got to leave. I don't know. This is like these guys watched Inception, and you were like, okay, cool. You can incept with a lie, I guess.
Yeah, they're using the guise of trying to take some sort of like PTSD out of combat victims. Like that is the thing they're trying to do and solve, I guess. But everything that we know as we get later in these scenes of Helen kind of coming as a reporter and the other nefarious stuff that this guy as a doctor has done prior, and obviously now knowing what we know in the silo and kind of how they're being manipulated by drugs to lose their memory. I find it very interesting to kind of now get some of the backstory and reasoning why some of this stuff exists. Now, we don't understand necessarily why, but getting the backstory, I think, is fascinating.
Sure. I think it would have been funny if Keen had walked in and his sister's lying in that bed and Dr. Victor just has a Jack Daniels bottle with like a prescription label hiding the Jack Daniels label, and he's just like having her drink it, and he's like, "This is the medicine. We're giving her the medicine so she forgets." And Keen's
Jack Daniel D+.
Yeah, there you go. Jack Daniel D+. So smooth. It sits in those barrels for 9 years. I thought it was interesting that during this memory conversation, he specifically brings up artifacts from your youth, like which we have heard of in the silo, and the danger of artifacts from the before time, and how our body like uses those things to remember. I thought that was, interesting, but there's a lot of it dumped on us during this conversation.
Yeah, I like the relic. But also the thing to call out too is like, not only the relics and them kind of trying to hide this in this silo world, but like that toy that we saw,
Regina,
who was it?
His ex,
Regina,
gives it to the Juliets, that group 8 group.
So she has that toy, and I'm assuming like that's going to be something from Juliet's childhood that she's going to ultimately get and hopefully like officially jog her memories.
Okay.
Because I'd be a little bummed if by the end of the next episode we don't have her fully back. Like I don't want to see Juliet continue to be struggling with her memories. I want to see her back.
Yeah, I think we made great strides, and also she is not taking her medicine. So I agree with you. I think we're going to get the old Juliet back, and she's going to just start punching people in the face and throwing people off balconies. We have, I believe it's Anna Thurman. So this is Senator Thurman's aide, which is also her daughter, meeting with Keen, and Keen is explaining like what is happening with his sister. I don't really understand this relationship or where it's leading or why it's happening, other than the reporter shows up, and her name is Helen, I've been told. And we get this, conversation where Keen reveals to Helen that his sister is not at Walter Reed, but is at the special Stinson clinic. And we get some more backstory on Dr. Victor about how his memory wiping drug and procedures were used on prisoners and like recruits and veterans without their knowledge or consent. And so Helen's got kind of a bone to pick with this Dr. Victor, where Anna is like protecting him, or at least speaking up for, she sees the good in what his research is doing, and Helen thinks it's all some sort of weird conspiracy.
Yeah, and it's interesting from Anna's character perspective because we don't really know her yet, but she was saying that she wants to go visit Charlotte, and then we know that she's the daughter of the senator. So yeah, what are her motivations? I think there's still a lot to be said there. But yeah, this is like another scene where, again, like I feel like it's a very big dump of information kind of on us very quickly in these scenes. And this is what I found maybe a little bit jarring in this episode is like some of these scenes they literally cut for characters to have like 2 sentences in the before times and then come right back to the silo. I feel like they maybe could have paced it a little bit better, but again, more nefarious shenanigans going on from this doctor and this clinic.
Yeah, no, I sent in a donation for his research after I watched this episode. I think he's doing the right stuff, and I would love to get some of these drugs, maybe a little bit. No, I'm with you. The cutting back and forth after like a beat was a little bit jarring, and that's why, as we talk this out, I like to separate this section out. And Anna's like interesting because she's like a political operator, so she's like, you gave her something and you got nothing back, and being rather innocent, a little bit of a a goody two-shoes, we'll say, Tom. This guy is, calling people asking for money so he can run for office, which is what good politicians do. But the reporter ultimately got the location of Charlie, which then Helen uses that information to go visit Charlie. Mm-hmm. And she starts to write, and this jars Charlie's memory, which gives her some traumatic recall. Mm-hmm. And what's revealed to us, and I think important to note, is that Charlie found her and reached out to her because she was suspicious about this mission that she was going on to Iran. And I think that's interesting. The other thing to note is the old dude that Charlie clocked on the train in episode 1, because she was being Jason Bourne, I believe is the same gentleman that watches this interaction happen between Helen and Charlie, right?
Yes, I agree. I think it was helpful to get that in the recap of this episode. But yeah, this is the same character, same actor. So you would think Charlie's just being paranoid, but no, this actually is a guy that is involved with this facility.
Yep. Makes you wonder if Charlie went on that mission at all, or if it was just a fake memory filled with space goo. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. All right, so Charlie gets upset because Dr. Victor is there calming Charlie, and we've got Helen in custody when Keen arrives because obviously they called him. And Tom, other than the Muppet Babies and just looking at your tattoo in the mirror, what do you find calms you when you're like remembering a traumatic? Should we talk through some of the traumatic memories that you have? Do you want to go into those right now? Just between
no, man.
You and I?
No, I think this podcast has been long enough. But I feel like he was getting essentially like a couple of woosahs. Kind of reminded me like Bad Boys 2 kind of vibes. Or like didn't Ted Lasso, didn't they do like a 3-5-3 breathing technique or something? I don't know what it is. 3-5-3 could be wrong to make you pass out. But breathing, I guess, is all you need to do.
Well, it is important to life, I'll say that. And I also think that Charlie is probably just like, hey, Dr. Victor, can I have the medicine? And he's like, okay. And he pulls a flask out of his sock and gives her some of the old Jack Daniels.
The old B+. Plus.
We have a conversation with Daniel and Helen, Keen and Helen. And this is where we find out that, like, Charlie sent her to Daniel in order to like point her in the right direction about what was happening with this mission to Iran. And Helen is questioning why Charlie was sent on this mission in modern planes, but with like old equipment that couldn't be hacked, like old radios, old tech. Also, they were sent with bunker busters over Turkmenistan, which I looked it up, Tom. It's north of Iran, just in case you were wondering. It's not where turkeys come from. It is a real country. And then she's like questioning the narrative of what all happened and why Charlie is in this like private memory facility.
Yeah, so some big reveals of Charlie, essentially, or Charlotte being the one that reached out to the reporter. Like, I think even Helen talks about, like, was the dirty bomb attack even real? Like, was it potentially staged as a means for the government to do some other shenanigans? I mean, I've never known the government to do any of that kind of stuff, but I love the conspiracy theory stuff that's going on. It's great.
Yes, they always tell us the truth. This episode is brought to you by the U.S. government and Pfizer. Please email us. All right. Yeah, so here's my take. I don't mind the before time stuff. I came to the show because of the silo and like the fun environment and the nature of that. And so I enjoyed this episode and what we were discovering there. This before time stuff, cool. Like, I'm okay with it. It's like, I don't know. The weird goo, the memory stuff, the dirty bomb, the whether or not we were really on a mission to Iran, all cool. That's not why I came to this show, but obviously they're telling a story from the books, and I'm going to go along with it. I have more fun in the silo than I do in the weird, like Washington, D.C., the government's lying to us storyline, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think like the first Silo book is very much like what we get in the show, and then as you get to, I think it's Shift and Dust are the two next books in the series. things definitely kind of changed quite a bit. And like it was a bit jarring as a book reader when I first started reading, but the more you kind of get into it, I think the more fascinating and brilliantly written and set up it is. So it's very interesting to see them kind of try to bring this to life. And again, I don't think exactly as the books were written, but I think a lot of this groundwork is kind of needed for what's to come. And I would just say be patient. I think let this cook a little bit because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Sure, and I will. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a strong episode. So, from here, Tom, unless you've got anything more to say about this episode, let's go into Audience Corner. Everyone's favorite, the audience's favorite, the corner's favorite. We got a lovely email from Kelly. Kelly is asking us to pod on DFT St. Louis, which...
DTF.
What did I say?
DFT. Isn't DFT like a drug or something? DTF is down to fornicate?
Good call there. I don't know, but we appreciate people sending us emails asking us to do different shows.
Now, did you watch the show, Julian? I think we've talked about this. You did not watch, correct?
No, I have not watched this show. Did you watch this show?
I watched the show, and it was a very, very, I don't know, fun is the wrong word, but it was a very enjoyable experience. Like, the actors in it, it's like Jason Bateman.
I love Jason Bateman. Arrested Development.
Yeah, dude from...
David Harbour.
David Harbour, yes. And
Yep.
I can't remember the lead actress's name. But, like, it's just a super weird and wild plot, and it has some kind of twists and turns and stuff in it. I would recommend it. It's kind of essentially like a mini-series. I think it did actually get an Emmy nod, as well as some other fantastic shows that we covered in Widow's Bay and Pluribus. Got a bunch of Emmy nominations. But yeah, I think it's worth your time. There was a couple times where I was like, what are we watching in this show? But I think the end pays off, and it was an enjoyable experience.
Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to pod on it, Kelly, but we may watch it. And honestly, the biggest selling point is I ignored everything Tom said. The writer of this show, Steve Conrad, also wrote Patriot, and season 1 of Patriot was just a phenomenal TV show that no one watched and talked about, and I could spend years talking about because it was phenomenal. So, all right, Tom, you've got the reviews for us. We just want to say, from the bottom of our hearts and the tops of our silos, we really appreciate those of you that write a review, like and subscribe. On Spotify, there's the little follow button and the 5 stars. It means the world to us. And if you leave a 5-star, we will do our best to read it on pod. And so we had a couple, and Tom is going to cover them now.
Yes. I mean, we've had some fantastic reviews, and I echo everything that Julian said, but this one tickled me. It was from That's My Opinion, and the title of the review is You Should Do... It's Cape Fear next. I think you wrote Cafe Fear in the outline.
And the body of the review was just an exclamation mark. Incredible.
Yes, the body of the review is just an exclamation. So brilliant. Like 5 stars for your review.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Then we have Wildcat G and Joe Woo 12 both wrote very similar reviews, thinking or saying that we're very much enjoying our shenanigans on here. Said they came to us from our Widow's Bay coverage, and we're looking forward to our Silo stuff. So thank you both for writing those reviews and following us on the next show. And then we got Rocket Riot, which is a fantastic username.
Ooh, band name, Tom. Band name after Extra Level the Levelers.
Disheveled.
What was it? Extra Level Disheveled? Yeah, there we go.
But Rocket Riot says they are a gift for breaking down, or they have a gift for breaking down binge-worthy shows, even some shows that are just pretty good.
Yeah, listen.
Looking at you,
we bought
Rooster.
on a show, we don't know. We don't know if it's going to be good or not. So, yeah.
Yes, we do our best to try to pick good ones, but I feel like we did a pretty good job. I think Rooster, let's call maybe the Rings of Power we weren't huge fans on that we potted on.
Let's
the
not
first
do
season.
this, Tom. They were all great.
Fair
They were
enough.
all gold. Go back and listen to the podcast.
But they said that they are funny. They catch the details that I gloss over. I'm looking forward to diving into their silo coverage as well. So again, thank you to those folks that took the time and gave us some reviews through Apple Podcasts. And yeah, if you want to hear us read your review, please take a couple minutes and pop on those sites. We appreciate it.
Yep, we appreciate it. And if you want to reach out to us with questions or theories, once again, please don't spoil it all, but you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. if you would be so kind as to, as we mentioned, rate and review and tell a friend if you enjoy our coverage. Tom, you'll cover the other socials.
Yes, and then follow us at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky, all the fun ones. Let us know what you're thinking about this show. Again, I think this show is an Apple show, so it gets horribly marketed. So as I'm going through the socials, you see so many people saying like, hey, Silo Season 3 came out and nobody told me. So I'm doing my best to try to spread the good word. And if you're listening, definitely do the same. Get more people watching the show. It's fantastic. And can't wait for next week, man.
Yep. For Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And I have been Tom. Till next week, everybody.